This video is brought to you by Audible.com. Hey everyone, this is Daniel from PhoneArena with a video comparison between the Samsung Galaxy S3 and the HTC One. Samsung's last year finest is still one of the most popular Android handsets around, which says a lot, and we are therefore pitting it against HTC's latest and greatest to ease your choice in the quest for the perfect fit. HTC One sports a few novel features, like the ultra-pixel camera on the back with optical image stabilization and the frontal stereo speaker setup. Samsung, as usual, bets on its unique AMOLED display technology stuffed in a thin and light body. So which one's for you? Watch our comparison to find out. This polycarbonate Galaxy S3 is slightly shorter and thinner than the One. But the aluminum-clad HTC handset is narrower and more elongated, which is easier for one-handed navigation. The polished aluminum chassis of the HTC One goes rather edgy and slippery in the hand compared to holding the curvy Galaxy S3. Yet there's no denying that this precision-crafted metal unibody HTC has come up with looks and feels great in the hand. The other metal accents, like the one-piece volume key here on the right, only contribute to the premium feeling. HTC has also equipped its phone with a dual stereo speaker setup here in the front and integrated an infrared blaster here in the power lock key at the top. These are two features that the Galaxy S3 doesn't have. HTC has placed the capacitive back button here on the left under the display, which requires a lot more thumb stretching than if it was on the right, unless you are lefty, of course. Also, the power lock button here at the top at this screen size and phone size is more uncomfortable to use than simply putting it on the side like on the Samsung Galaxy S3. The HTC One sports a pretty great 4.7-inch Full HD Super LCD 3 display with 1080 by 1920 pixels of resolution, ensuring the highest 460 IPPI pixel density. The colors are accurate and viewing angles are some of the best we've seen, as you can see. On par with the AMOLED display on the Galaxy S3 actually. The One is not as bright as the displays on the HTC One X or the iPhone 5 for instance, but the difference is not big, so it's still pretty visible in direct sunlight, albeit it could be a bit less reflective. Galaxy S3 on the other hand is equipped with a 4.8 inches HD Super AMOLED display with 780 by 1280 pixels, which ring in a lower 306 ppi pixel density. It is still more than enough for your daily tasks, plus we get the typical 4 OLED screens, wide viewing angles and deep blacks, but its calibration is the weak point. Colors on the Galaxy S3 are quite oversaturated by default and appear pretty cold as well. These are not major gripes unless you're a display nut, but brightness is, and the S3 doesn't deliver in that respect. Its low screen reflectance can't compensate for sub 400 nits luminance, which makes it difficult to tell much outside unless you shade the screen with your palm, whereas the HTC One screen performs much better in sunlight. Now let us say a few words about our sponsor, Audible.com. Audible is a leading audiobook service with a catalog of over 100,000 hit titles like The Hunger Games or 50 Shades of Grey, just to name a few. What's more, if you go to audiblepodcast.com/PhoneArena, you'll be able to download one free audiobook and listen to it anytime on any device. So if you want to get started with this beautiful service, just head over to audiblepodcast.com/PhoneArena. Both handsets run Android 4.1.2, but the manufacturers have slapped their own UI overlays on top of it. Samsung's TouchWiz Nature UX is decked out with this multi-window mode, which allows you to run any two applications at once by splitting the screen in a ratio of your choosing. And with this hovering keyboard on top to boot, HTC strikes back with a completely redesigned Sense 5.0 interface, as pervasive as the old one, reaching every nook and cranny and all the details in the sub-menus, as you can see. But it's now flatter and more minimalistic than before. Also includes some new features like this blink feed, a curated way to show relevant news on topics of your interest, mixed with social networking updates, calendar entries, and so on, as well as the Zoe camera footage collage software. So each interface has something to show for it. It just depends on which one you would like better. Be it the international quad-core Exynos 4412 version or the dual-core Snapdragon S41 for the US, the Samsung Galaxy S3 Silicon can't match the HTC One's benchmark scores, as it sports the last generation Snapdragon 600 chipset with 4 cores clocked at 1.7 GHz, coupled with the 2 GB of RAM versus 1 GB for the international S3, 2 GB for the US one. The HTC One Silicon pumps out some impressive performance. That's not to say that Android Jelly Bean doesn't run smooth on both handsets, as well as any apps, since today's chipsets are way more than the UI needs at the moment. The HTC One finished first, 12,230 on Quadrant, and the Galaxy S3 scored 5,762, less than half of that. HTC, however, seems to have restricted again the number of apps you can have open at any given moment to 9 at this time. You can see this is a 3x3 grid, so you can have only 9 apps running at any given time. You can then close them by flicking each app screenshot, whereas the Samsung Galaxy S3 will let you keep as many apps open as the memory allows at any given time. There are 16 GB of internal memory in the basic Galaxy S3, whereas the HTC One starts you off with 32 GB, but Samsung has included a microSD slot for storage expansion, while HTC has skimmed through that part. Both handsets support excellent browsers which render pages very fast and let you scroll, pan around, and zoom smoothly. The stock browsers support Adobe Flash, and the HTC One even has this handy on-off button for the Flash player here in the interface from the get-go. As far as the connectivity goes, the phones are loaded with 4G LTE radios where needed, and also HSPA Plus connectivity, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth 4.0, assisted GPS, DONA, and NFC as well. HTC One throws in the infrared sensor at the top as well. The pictures and video gallery can be split in two on the Galaxy S3, with the folder structure here on the left and the current folder content on the right, making it easier to navigate. You also get picture editing, which here you have to download separately, but it's built into the interface, whereas the HTC One has a more traditional grid gallery, which lists the pics and videos in tiled thumbnail format. You also get built-in picture editing directly from the interface. You can apply a few effects, retouch, crop, rotate, and so on. And you can also sift through the pictures and videos chronologically by zooming in and out, pinching like that, instead of scrolling up and down if you like. The music player on the Galaxy S3 might not dazzle with graphics, but it's very functional and lets you choose from different equalizer presets and sound modes directly from the player's interface. HTC's music app, on the other hand, is with rather basic looks and can be set to display album art, artist photos and lyrics automatically during playback. It doesn't offer equalizer presets from here since it has the pre-installed Beats audio setup when you plug the headphones or pump music through the speakers. Speaking of which, they're very strong. These stereo dual speakers at the front. It's with a built-in amplifier. This is at the minimum volume, and Galaxy S3 is at minimum volume as well. You can hear the difference. The Galaxy S3 is almost lost in the sound of the HTC One. It has a single speaker which sounds much wimpier and distorted in comparison. Both headsets have excellent video players with a number of options, which in the case of the Galaxy S3 include this playback zoom, and also Samsung's handset supports more formats like DivX, XVD, MKV out of the box, whereas you get a third-party player for the HTC One to run DivX, for instance. HTC shied away from the megapixel wars, enlarging the pixel size instead of the count, and equipped its so-called ultra-pixel module with optical image stabilization tech, making it a formidable competitor to any flagship out there, despite the comparatively low megapixel number. Galaxy S3 sports a run-of-the-mill 8-megapixel sensor, but has a very rich number of settings, color effects and scene modes for it that can be picked from the interface. Still, HTC meets those scene modes and color effects and rages with HDR video, the Zoe collage software that automatically makes a special effects movie out of your footage, and a fast HD 60 frames per second mode. HTC also places the stills and video on one and the same screen, making it much easier to capture something instead of constantly having to switch back and forth, missing potentially precious moments. Outdoors in good lighting conditions, the Galaxy S3 captures more detail than the HTC One's camera and exhibits more natural looking colors than the slightly warmer toned, saturated colors from the One. HTC's handset white balance measurements are also spot on, but it tends to overexpose brighter areas a bit. In low light conditions, the HTC One also overexposes the bright areas to the point of a halo effect around light sources, for instance, but the footage is way brighter and clearer than the one from the Galaxy S3, with the only caveat being the colors that are slightly warmer than they should be. The handsets can shoot 1080 video with 30 frames per second, and with the Galaxy S3 you can frame the exact scene before starting to record, whereas the HTC One camera interface goes out of the way only after you have pressed the recording button. Footage from both handsets is smooth and crisp, but the HTC One has the natural advantage with the optical image stabilization for shake-free video that is clear and visible in conditions where the S3 barely registers anything. It also sports better soundtrack compared to the flat and distorted recordings from the S3. Last but not least, the continuous autofocus works like a charm on the HTC One, zipping quickly between the background and an object front and center of the lens. The only gripe we have with the One's video capture is that in low light conditions, its focus often wanders for a brief second before sharpening it out again. Samsung's Android module actually does a disservice to the Galaxy S3 with the ability to lose value slower than the other brands. Granted, without carrier subsidies, the Galaxy S3 is roughly 20 to 30% cheaper than the SIM-free HTC One, but you get so much more from HTC's handset in every department that it's probably not even worth the money saved. The HTC One sports this sophisticated head-turning design, a brighter, high-resolution display, much better sound recording and output, as well as superior low-light footage from the camera. Thus, one of the very few reasons to pick the S3 before the HTC One is if you have to have a swappable battery and a memory expansion slot. In all other cases, HTC's current finest is a clear winner before Samsung's last year bestseller, as can be expected. This was a video comparison between the HTC One and the Samsung Galaxy S3 from PhoneArena. For more information about these and other handsets, you can visit us at PhoneArena.com. Thanks for watching.